listeners. Welcome to another episode of the Snowy's Camping Show. You're joined once again by myself, Ben, and my colleague Lauren. How are you today?
Good. Long weekend we've just had.
Long weekend. I think you've got a croaky voice today.
I do.
So
I'm recovering, bear with me if I sound a bit weird.
Right, before we jump into it, I just want to say we want to get more followers, more subscribers, more people interacting with us, right? So don't forget to rate and subscribe the show on your favourite podcast app. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up so we know that you like it. And if you want to join in on the conversation, or we would love you to join in on the conversation, join us at the Snowy's Facebook group. The Snowy's Camping Show Facebook group. Yeah. Today, we're talking about a topic that is something I think you're going to be able to offer a little bit more than me, and that's camping with teenagers.
Yes.
And mainly being that my kids are 10 and 6. I've got two girls at 10 and 6 at the time we're recording this anyway. So I'm just kind of getting to this point where my oldest is getting into that teenage sort of obnoxious, want to be away from boring mum and dad kind of years, whereas my youngest wants to be with the big kids but often comes back and has to hang out with mum and dad. But I think your kids are a little bit older, right?
Yeah, they're 10 to 14, so 14, 13, 12, 10 basically.
Okay.
So, they're not as old or they're not sort of teenagers in that 15, 16, 17 age range, or possibly in that sort of 17, 18 age range as well, where you want to do family trips and things like that, but they don't want to come and they have, a good justification, and often if they have a license and a job, a real claim and a right to say, I don't want to come. So I think, today we're talking more about that sort of up to 15-ish, 16 age range where they really need to be independent and maybe are really strongly telling you that they don't want to go on your stupid family holiday, but they can't be by themselves.
Yeah. So. We did a bit of a call around the office for other people who've got some older kids to get some ideas and tips, and hopefully we can start the conversation on, as you mentioned, the Facebook page with other ideas too.
Yeah.
But for me, I thought I had a few more years before those sort of troublesome teenage years started, but I'm already seeing it in my 10-year-old where we'd just been away on the weekend and it was with a group of people and she's off with all of her friends and very independent. We hardly saw her for the weekend and it is quite good. But on the other hand, I do miss it, like going camping, so they don't have any choice but to spend time just with us because there's no one else around.
Yeah.
But not always for them, and she loved just being in the caravan park and the independence you can give them in the caravan park. But it is different than younger kids. Like younger kids, you almost your whole holiday, I've found, is based around making sure you're doing stuff to entertain them. And I'm now starting to get a taste of when they're a bit older that they're a bit more independent, so they can go and do something and you can sit down and just have a drink.
Which is actually
so.
Really lovely. Like that independence part of or side of things is really good. And I find that in a lot of ways, camping with teenagers is easier than it is with camping with kids because, like you say, when they're a bit younger, they rely on you for a lot more than just sort of, the basic food and water and all that sort of stuff. They rely on you for entertainment and company, and they can't necessarily just spend the weekend away hanging out with other gangs of kids because they're too young for that. So it does get into a different space with teenagers because they are more self-sufficient. They can make their own food. They can go and spend time with friends. So that side of things is really good. Yeah. I think the challenging part of it is battling with, or not battling with, that's sort of putting a negative spin on it already, but dealing with the stuff that started to come up for us sometimes of just them not wanting to go and not wanting to, spend time with their family and not wanting to sort of go on those trips. And I think also as they get a bit older, they're becoming more independent. They're starting to watch shows on Netflix that they like and playing video games with their friends and all that sort of stuff. And it's just the idea of not having those things sometimes presents a challenge for them as well. Yeah. So, the main thing is for me, I've found in how things have changed over the last couple of years with our camping journey is they want space, so give them space. And one of the ways that we've done that is they have I've got 2 different tents now. So we have 2 boys and 2 girls, and the 2 boys are in their own tent and the 2 girls are in their tent, and they can sort of set it up wherever they want within reason, so they don't have to worry about being overheard and they're not being policed about when they're going to sleep and all that sort of stuff. Swags can also present a good option, like being able to give them their own physical space that they can set up and have ownership over is really important
Okay.
Yeah.
So their own space. I should be taking notes here because I feel like I'm getting to this phase where I want my kids to keep wanting to camp just with us. So I'm probably going to get a heap out of this episode too. So their own space. And I guess that gives them some independence, right? And set up your own tent, create your own space, manage your own space. You know, you can probably not jump in there and tell them to clean up their tent all the time. It's their responsibility to keep it tidy. If they don't clean it up, they've got to pack it up at the end of the trip anyway. That's right.
And I think part of that as well, for me personally, is resisting, if you are giving them that space, which they do need, is to resist the urge to manage that space for them and get in their grill if you think it should be done differently or what sort of that sort of thing.
Yeah, okay.
Like it's their space, it's their tent. If they want to be in their tent and read their book all day, just let them and, just sort of create as much room on your holiday or your trip to allow them the space that they need.
Yeah, I guess that moves on to the next point that someone pointed out is giving them responsibility. So we've talked responsibility around their accommodation and the things that they take, but also getting them involved in the trip. So I'm assuming by that I can't remember who it was that mentioned it, but they mean get them involved in the planning of the trip. So you're not just saying to the kids, get in the car, we're doing this. Yeah. It's a family event in planning. Do you follow that sort of ethos?
I think it's the thing that I've found, especially as they're getting a bit older, is when they're younger, you can plan the trips that you want to do as adults and the kids just come along and they're happy. But then it gets to a point like a recent trip that we did where I was so stoked because there was this sort of a sculpture trail and there was all this sort of awesome stuff around that I wanted to do. And they were just like, no. Like that literally sounds like the worst and I don't want to do it and I'm really bored and I'm not going to get out of the car to look at these statues because it was quite a long sort of statue trail that we did in the car. And so I think, in that particular instance, I'm like, okay, that's cool. If you don't want to, I'm doing this for me because this is what I want to do and I recognize that it's not what you want to do. So I'm not going to force you out of the car and make you come and stand here and enjoy this. So just cool, stay in the car, that's fine, whoever wants to come. So reducing that stress for you in those sort of ways. But on the back of that is giving them that responsibility to
make their own choice a bit.
Yeah, to make their own choice. But then also when you're planning the holidays, when they get a bit older, being like, hey guys, what do you want to do for our next trip? Where do you want to go? Do you like the idea of doing this? And then getting them sort of excited about the prospect of where you're going and the things that you could be doing there and helping them to make those choices that gives them something to look forward to. So it's not actually just about you and dad or, the parents doing all of that.
Yeah. Well, nature trail with signs and stuff is probably them thinking, I didn't come on holiday to read and learn.
Yeah, that's
I'm
right.
not here to do more school stuff. I just want to go and do fun stuff.
And so the concept of caravan parks, I don't really love caravan park camping.
I'm the same, yeah.
My voice, sorry. And I just sometimes I can find it a bit overwhelming, but I've started to realize that they really love it because there is a guarantee of there being a throng of other kids there and it's sort of like a bordered space, I guess. They've got clear boundaries of where they can and can't go and there is a lot of freedom within a caravan park space and often there's pool and jumpy pillows and games room and things like that, which they really, really love. And so part of that is also, okay, well, yeah, maybe we will go to the caravan park, which I'm not, a fan of, but we're going to do it because you guys really want to go there and we know that you're going to love it. And at the end of the day, that's really important as well.
I think you got to embrace it as an adult.
Yeah.
I'm at that phase now, and I mentioned I was away on the weekend, but they loved it. The kids loved it. The younger kids were just riding their bikes around a racetrack on the road, and normally you'd say not on the road, but in a caravan park you can give them that little bit of freedom because other road users in the caravan park are aware that it's a shared space and it kind of teaches them that little bit. You got to watch out for cars and they were just racing around. You don't really get that.
Yeah.
Unless you go to a park, it's a specific trip, but they can do it at their own freedom.
Yeah, definitely.
But food's another one, I think. I've tried to get my kids involved in food to say, what do you want? And they think, yeah, it's great. We'll help cook. That's a good idea. But then their friends were at the park when it comes time to cook dinner, they've nicked off anyway.
Yeah.
So for me at my age, they were involved in planning of the food.
Yeah.
But when it came to cooking it, there was more fun things to do.
I think some of the things that get the kids excited about coming on camping, even if they don't want to come, is the promise of things that we don't usually have normally. So like s'mores and marshmallows, we don't do that at home. And so, you know, being like, oh, what kind of marshmallows do you want, or what sort of desserts or what sort of things do you want on your trip that we wouldn't usually have at home is good. And, helping them to sort of look forward to certain dinners or meals, seeing if they want to cook them, things like that, to get them having that a bit more ownership over it, which makes them more sort of excited and involved and ties back into the responsibility side of things, I guess. But the other good thing about food, I think, which has helped me, is they are because they're getting older, they're not necessarily hanging around camp a lot, and then they come back and maybe they haven't eaten and they're getting a bit hangry, and then that affects their mood and all that sort of stuff. So having lots of snacks, lots and lots of snacks and lots of food, and less about, you know, oh, nice big healthy breakfast, nice big healthy lunch, nice big healthy dinner. Instead, it's like, okay, what's a nice, quick, fast, filling breakfast which they can eat, which means that they can leave and do whatever they want. Mm-hmm. And then what's this plethora of snacks that they can just come back at any time or stuff in their pockets or whatever, and they'll not be hungry throughout the day, and they'll be getting lots of food and be able to be self-sufficient. That's another important thing, I think, too.
They can manage those snacks.
They can manage that themselves. If they run out before
the trip's over, then you've eaten all your snacks.
Yeah, absolutely. And then...
Sorry, I've interrupted you there.
No. I was going to say, and then camping with friends and family and things like that is also important, maybe with cousins or, friends with other kids. If you're not going somewhere where there's a caravan park, or you're not sure if there's going to be other kids around, that can also help. And then coordinating with those people about different snacks and different sort of hosting maybe dinners in different people's camps and things. That's also really fun.
We do that once a year. We have a group of 4 families that we go away with each year. And exactly that. We share a bit of the there's usually too much food, but then that flows over to lunch the next day. And it's not my style of camping. It's caravan park camping. We're in a tent. The rest are in a cabins. This time round we got a cabin because my daughters begged me. So we got a cabin.
Fancy.
But it was very fancy. But it's great for them. And if I just need to let go of the fact that there's all these people and stuff around me. It's a different type of camping. And embrace the fun that they're having and that little bit of freedom I've got as an adult to sit there and have a drink, and my kids are being independent. And they've developed really good friendships with these people, having done that year after year. And it's just a little bit of independence for them. So
definitely. I think also when they're teenagers, they're also looking to build relationships with people who are adults but who aren't their immediate parents as well. That's just sort of a natural progression. So if you do have regular friends and family that you go camping with, allowing them that freedom to maybe go to those other camps and have tea with those families and change that up and share that with your friends and family is also really awesome.
It's good. We'd walk into our cabin and there'd just be like kids from the same group, but you didn't know who was going to be just sitting down watching telly in your cabin at any point at any time. There's someone else's kids, so you don't know where your kids are.
It feels really nice.
It's a bit of trust. It's good.
Definitely.
I think we got a few points written up here, but involving them, I think we kind of touched on that. Involving them, getting plans, planning around what they want to do,
and getting excited and stuff.
That's right.
We've also got like an SA camps book, for example, and then often the kids can just have a look through that and read about all the different places, and if there's things that they're like, oh, this looks really good, keeping a mental note of that, which is important. And I mean, we touched on it before when you talked about with caravan parks and bikes and things like that. 100% take your kids' bikes.
Yeah, like scooters, rollerblades.
Take them. Just make room for bikes. That's all I have to say, because on the trips where we've thought, oh, maybe we won't take them, it has literally been the worst. Take bikes. Even if you're going in the middle of the bush, take bikes, because I honestly I would take bikes every day of the week, just because I think it gives them that little bit of extra independence. There's always kids on bikes, and you don't want your teenagers, especially your sort of earlier teenagers, to be sitting in a camp with other kids on bikes when they don't have their bikes with them.
Yeah, okay.
That's I'm telling you that from experience.
They're not the easiest things to transport though, are they? I've got a bike
They're
rack and I
not.
take it to Caravan Park, but if I'm bush camping, then I'm not taking it because it's a big rack on the back and I can't access the back of the car quite as easily.
I mean,
so I guess it depends.
I would personally still take them, and I think because I have 4 kids as well. So even if there are no other kids around, if they've got their bikes, they will make their own fun and they will make their own bike games and be bike bandits and do their thing. Okay. And even if you are bush camping or if you're in a national park or whatever, and there are other campsites around, there will be other kids on bikes, and then your bike gang will meet up with their bike gang and they'll just create this big bike gang of kids that are just riding all day and absolutely having the time of their life. And there's only been a handful of times where I haven't taken bikes before, and one of those times was in a recent trip where I properly have teenagers now, and it was just the biggest mistake.
Righto. Okay.
Yeah.
I would take note of that one. Maybe I need to make space for bikes more so in the future. And probably if you're bush camping, probably a good amount of bunch of repair kits.
Yes, true. But I also think obviously it depends on your kids. Like if your kids are just not into bikes, sure. But I think it really does just give them that next level of independence. They can go further. They can explore further. It's more fun for them than walking around.
Yep.
Bikes are a winner.
Now the next point I quite liked. And probably because my kids are kind of at that age where they're starting to be independent, but kind of maybe don't want to venture too far away from mum and dad, but a little set of radios that they can take if they're, I mean, they're not going to walk outside of most radios. Have got a reasonable radius that are going to cover the distance that most kids are going to explore into, but they could explore, I don't know, maybe around the corner of a creek bend, knowing they've got the radio there to buzz back to mum and dad if they want. So you can get
radios
them pretty cheap.
Are awesome. You can get them really cheap. We've had, I think Uniden is the brand, and they come in a set of 4 and they have a 3 kilometre range and they're each a different colour.
Yep. So
you don't have to worry about fighting them, or if there's one left on the ground, oh, hang on a minute, that was such and such's radio to look after it, sort of thing. But I think they can work in two ways. They can help support the teenagers or the older kids that want to develop more independence but don't necessarily feel confident enough or safe enough to do it. It can give them that extra barrier. It can be more fun than a mobile phone, because you can say, oh, yeah, sure, they might have their mobile phone, but at the same time having a radio hang around your neck while you're fanging around on the bike and you're hearing people talking and it's a different vibe. It's a much more fun atmosphere. And then the second thing, which is twofold for me, because we have a child who probably needs a bit more support to feel safer to be independent, but we also have a child who I need to feel safer because they are so independent. Right. And so that's more of I know that they're not off somewhere in severe danger.
Yep, good one.
Yeah,
probably fun between them as well, right? Because they can then play spies or whatever they want to do and talk to each other, not just a mum and dad.
Totally. And so if you are all on the same channel, you can have a parental radio. So the purpose of the radios primarily wasn't actually for us as parents. It was for the kids, and it was to give them an extra element to their independence and their fun and what they could do when they were out there. But then having a base camp radio that you can just overhear what's going on and, check in with them every now and then if you need to, or call them back for lunch, or, they can call you if they need help and things like that. It's really awesome. It's fun.
I think I'll chuck that on my to buy list.
Yeah.
I think that'll be good.
Yeah.
Next one is technology, and it's going to be a bit of a divide here. I think I'm not at the moment. Should say I'm not one for technology, but I'm trying really hard to embrace it to a degree, because I think kids nowadays are growing up as technology being part of their lives in the same way like a pen was in ours. They're very reliant upon it. So I don't take it yet.
The division isn't between you and me. The division will probably be just generally within the community, because I think some families will be really, really pro technology and have a lot of stuff, and some families aren't, or it's not that they're not pro, but they just don't have a lot of technology. And you and I don't have a lot of technology.
No.
Like we don't have iPads or gaming consoles or anything like that. I mean, I'm sure that especially now with my eldest being 14 and he's a boy and he really is getting into gaming, we'll sort of obviously venture down that in the future, but not while we're camping. Generally,
it's time to unplug, right?
Yeah, for me it is. It's time to unplug. But I guess for a lot of other people, that's a really important part of their camping experience and something that gives that their kids need to get through the trip. And that's totally cool for them. That's fine. I mean, we've in the last 12 months though, we've actually invested in an e-reader for 3 out of our 4 kids have them now.
Okay,
and the reason why we ended up doing it was because we found out that Libraries SA or libraries in any state actually have an ebook catalogue, so you can borrow ebooks for free, just like you can a hard copy book. And we have 3 really voracious readers. So my youngest got his ebook for his birthday, which was recently. So that's why we've got the 3rd one. And when they're going on a camping trip, they want to take 10 books, and it's just
bulky.
Yeah, bulky and heavy and not reliable. And then your books get dirty and then they get wet, and it's just sort of and so the reason why we decided to do the e-readers is because you can take literally hundreds of books with you in this tiny thing that's smaller than an iPad. So
that's a great idea.
Yeah, and they love it. They absolutely love it. And of course they have like music players. We have MP3 players and things like that. So in the car, because I think sometimes often when it comes to teenagers and kids as well, but more so especially teenagers, it's that idea of having to sit in a car for a couple of hours with their family who they don't want to sit with and they don't want to play your stupid car games and they don't want to do all of that sort of stuff. So having their music player and their e-reader to just read books and listen to music and listen to whatever music they want, read whatever books they want, it really helps the journey.
That's a great idea. For us, it's MP3 players, and we've got just a heap of audio books on there, and both of my kids listen to them just over and over, and they'll either take headphones or like a Bluetooth speaker.
Yeah.
And they're pretty easy to charge from like your 12-volt system in your car. But we also take a lot of pens and texters, and we actually just bought a couple of little whiteboards.
Oh, yeah.
And they sit there and scribble on those, and they can either do it in the car, or my youngest in particular with one friend, they'll just disappear down a creek bed somewhere with a handful of texters and some paper, and they really just create all sorts of
That's really
things
cool.
and create a little story and that sort of thing. So
we're
which
past
I love to see that.
I think we're past that stage now. Like I don't think we've brought any sort of art or crafty stuff on a camping trip for a while, for a little while now.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's just there was one activity that has actually caught their attention a lot when we've gone, especially bush camping, is just taking a little bag of scrap yarn and doing those, I think they're called God's eyes, where you make a cross with a stick and then you wrap yarn around it and you can make patterns. Yeah, they love them and they hang them up around the campsite, and it's really cool because it's something you can sit down and do at nighttime as an activity or something, or if you just need a bit of quiet space. But that's really the only thing that from a craft and activity sort of perspective that they've kept on doing even as teenagers.
I'll look into that one too. Another mental note taken there.
Yeah.
The last point we've got on here is games. I think you got to take some games camping, right? We've got a little bag of compacts like games so that you can take quite a few in a game, like mini Connect 4 and Uno and those sort of simple games. We take a few of those. I guess if it's just with mum and dad, the kids will play it. But if there's kids around, other kids and friends, then they'll go off and do their own thing and not so interested in the game.
We have found card games go down a treat as well. So we have a lot of other games at home, but not we don't take them camping really. But card games like just even with your normal deck of cards and coming up with games like that, and just even something like a simple game of Snap after tea when you're sitting by the fire or whatever before you wind down. There's another game called 5 Crowns, which is really awesome because you can just play it with one kid, because I've got my son, my youngest son, all he wants to do is just play card games because he's just so clever in his brain. Yeah, he just loves it. But you can play it with heaps of people, and it's just, and it's compact and it's small, and
I've not got into card games much. Neither my wife or I've ever been into it, but maybe we should look into more because it is a very compact thing. Not many things. Well, I guess you could lose the cards, but it's better than losing a little plastic Connect 4 pieces.
Yeah,
or something
that's
like that,
true.
So.
Yeah, but so I think games work really well for some family. So I think it's probably going to be something that might work better in a caravan park situation than maybe bush campings. But yeah, you can't go past card games.
My wife gets into those little IQ games kind of thing. Like you got to match. Yeah, she'll disappear for hours on those.
Oh, that's awesome.
I reckon we've probably covered off a fair bit.
Yeah, we've covered a fair bit. I think probably just the key is that, you know, I would love to really hear from people who do have that 15, 16, 17 plus sort of age. My thinking is that if you nail the early teens part, then the later teens part won't be as hard because you're sort of setting up well for their independence and sort of respecting their space and their developing autonomy, and you're being able to work that into your camping trips, that they won't have so much resistance to you as they get older. Yeah. I don't know. No, I'm sort of saying
there's
this
people
with
out there who are,
please.
I'm hoping heaps of our listeners are in that situation. They've got teenagers or they've been through it either successfully or failed. Yeah. Please let us know on the Snowies Camping Show, the Snowies Camping Show Facebook group. Give us your advice, ask questions. And as always, as we mentioned earlier, subscribe or rate to our podcast on your favourite app. Give us a like on YouTube if you're watching it there. And we're done. We'll see you next week.
No worries.
Thanks, guys.
Going to have some honey and lemon tea now.
Go for it.
See you, folks.
Bye.